So you go. You ask questions. I'll answer them. Lead me in. This is how I draw it out.
Okay, this is Dominic Sylph Hawkins.
Hello.
The amazing inventor and creator of incredible things. And we would like to talk to you today about your experiments, your belief systems, and the really cool things you've been making. So what is it that you're passionate about? What is it that really drives you in your experiments, in your
research?
Yeah, in your research.
There is a fundamental quality that pervades all of matter and time, and that it's made up of patterns that are achievable and observable, and they affect us. So for example, I can relate mathematically the 10 octaves of the audible spectrum of human hearing to the 1 octave of visible light, and the 3 octaves of ultraviolet, and the 7 octaves of infrared, and all these different components. That the qualities that repeat themselves, like tones, like the note C, that increases in pitch and modulation, but the quality never changes because we can sense that is identical to the quality of the colour green when you move up into the visible spectrum, and that to keep taking angles of how these patterns play out through the rest of the electromagnetic spectrum, the infrared spectroscopy of carbon and humans and the sun that are identical, so that the sun produces green as its primary tone of its highest amplitude, and then if we shoot back into the infrared spectrum, what would be green in the law of octaves down is still the highest amplitude. And so if we moved the sun into the audible spectrum, then what we would expect would be the note C, or the tone C, if C was related to 256 hertz, would be like the most ringing, vibrant. The colour green is the liquid that floods over the earth at this time and resonates most deeply. So there's all that work. and a piano that has its keys repainted to match the colours all the way through, all 88 keys, and then sheet music, which has just coloured dots that are still on the stave and teach you sight reading, but you can look at a piece of music and you can straight away get a sense of the emotional quality of that music. So if you pick up a sheet of music and you put through 4 or 5 pages, and it's filled with greens and yellows and oranges and these beautiful reds, you know that there's a specific emotion, which, like a theme, that will flow in that music. And if you pick up music and most of it is dark purples and blues and turquoises and violets, there's a totally different theme. There's a very contractive theme to that, and you could just see it. And you could play. You could teach people to play piano like that. Just be effortless, complicated chords and structures just by matching tones to colour. So that's all separate section of work. Electrically, I have never agreed with the electron model. I don't believe that electricity is the function of the motion of electrons through conductors, and I am dubious that there are even subatomic particles actually called electrons. The electron orbit decay problem simply means that their own relative ability to exist is pretty up for grabs, and that instead what electricity actually is a longitudinal wave effect, which has a 90-degree transverse magnetic function, and that what we observe, what we call electricity, is nothing more than magnetic drag. That magnetic drag causes friction of particles to produce light and heat and sound and the effects that we consider with current electricity. But that electricity itself is a infinitely perversive longitudinal wave, kind of like how the water on the ocean, the waves might travel, the direction of propagation might be towards the shore, if that makes sense. But if we put a cork in the ocean, and the cork floats and bobs up and down transversely at 90 degrees to the direction of propagation, the cork is not being moved. The total motion of the cork towards the shore is more out of drift. It's not actually it's not receiving the full force of the longitudinal motion. So it's the entire mass of the ocean is not really helping the cork get towards where it's going. And that cork its 90-degree up and down journey, that's like magnetism. And the longitudinal direction, the motion of the entire mass of the ocean pushing towards the shore, that's the electric longitudinal direction, if that makes sense. So electricity is enormously powerful, and I have an experiment that I use to show that electricity moves in waves, not in particles. I have yet to research further to say exactly what is the medium of propagation of those waves, but I can tell you that it is not the pushing of particles. So I can create a very simple observation of sine wave patterns through electrical circuits and electrical systems that show that I can have no electrical pressure, no voltage at one point, and I can step it up to a high electrical pressure, and then I can step it back down to no electrical pressure, and then back up to a high electrical pressure and down in a wave, all within one long piece of wire, one massive long conductor. So that Ohm's law is no longer relative, and that not in that fashion, that I can isolate specific circuits within that, so that from the build-up to the drop-off of one part of that wave is a self-isolated circuit that can be tapped, which is completely independent of the energy available in the second waveform in that same circuit. So the advantages are numerous. The ability to create electrical systems that are like actually intelligent functions and systems. An electrical system that can't electrocute humans. That's been fun. Realizing that the muscles are contracted and expanded bioelectrically through a range of signals from about 12 hertz to 70,000 hertz, and that once you go above 70 kilohertz, 70,000 hertz, the sensations of electrical motion through the body are more like heat, density, pain, stabbing sensations, the sensation of tingling or nerve sensations. And if we push that up to 300,000 hertz, 300 kilohertz, and then we propagate electric waves through the body, 240, 300 volts, there is no discernible contraction of muscles, and there is no observable electric effect physiologically, so that I can attach cables to my hip and use my leg as one of the wires and the conductors, I have a light bulb attached to my toe, and then run the return wire back to my generator at 240 volts, and I can light the bulb, a 40-watt bulb, and not feel any sensation in my leg, not feel any contraction or not experience any contraction of muscles. The hope is that this could help to, since it's not going to cause the heart to fibrillate muscularly, it could contribute to reducing the deaths through electrocution worldwide. What else? There's been so many. Lead-acid battery chemistry. That's what I'm probably most well known for here in Australia at this time. That through very simple chemical changes, lead-acid batteries can be altered to extend their lifespan and their function. So, for example, altering lead-acid chemistry into a capacitor rather than a chemical storage battery using sodium compounds, and then be able to crank the car engine in a super cranking style with a very small standard car battery that once it's fully depleted, can be recharged in 1 second by simply attaching jumper cables to another 12-volt source, and then again another full crank of the engine. So lead-acid batteries that can be recharged instantly, that could be used for high dump, short duration loads. Alterations to lead acid using graphite and a whole bunch of funky things that are part of my patent applications to be able to rejuvenate the lead acid. So if the battery is ever discharged beyond its 30% depth of discharge and the white lead sulfate crystal starts to form, I have a specific invention that I'm keen to patent, which will allow us to utilize alternative electrodes within the battery to actually strip the sulfate away from the plates and restore the sulfate into the solution without actually causing any degradation to the lead itself, so that the lead acid battery could be fully charged and discharged numerous times without causing any observable reduction in lifespan. my interest in nickel-ion batteries. It's not one of my inventions, but the ability to set up large-scale nickel-ion, nickel-ferrous battery systems for off-grid, like low watt-hour per kilo, but stationary, stable grid power. Where that invention has been shelved since the 1970s by the Exide Corp after they took over the rights to the distribution and manufacturing in America from the Edison Electric Company, or rather the Edison Storage Battery Company. I'm interested in showing the world that actually those batteries do exist. It's a lie that we don't currently have the battery technology we would need to run a completely off-grid system, or at least to have baseload for renewables in national grid tie-in. And my interest in those has taken us so far as to rejuvenate cells from 1914 and 1921 from America, like original Edison Electric Company from Orange, New Jersey, steel case cells of nickel-ion chemistry. So something to look out for, bit of fun, just to show the people that the lies that we're fed these days about batteries, battery chemistry, they're being purported by the people who've been shelving and sitting on the technology for decades. What else? Martial arts, of course, my other love. I am the creator's a strange word. Channeler is even more of a strange word, of a martial arts style called Hoshinden Jutaijutsu, and it looks at how, using the Fibonacci sequence over one octave, whether it's audible or visible range for us, we can find only 12 unique specific qualities within an octave, and the 13th quality pushes it outside of the octave. So we could safely say that using the system of perfect fifths, the arithmetic average and the ratios of Fibonacci sequence spiraling, there are a maximum of 12 unique nodes, or 12 unique points within one octave, that I believe simply replicate themselves higher and higher in pitch, or lower and lower in pitch, but that the quality they contain is the same.